The first piece of your application is your application, or what we will call your application form. Until you submit your application form, you don't truly exist to a university. Submitting your application form is the first and only step that you can take to really show a university that you want to attend their school. You move from being an interested student to an official applicant. And that's a big jump. Remember, no one can be accepted or denied until they apply. Your application form is the first thing that an admission officer will read when reviewing your application. The application form is mostly details about who you are and where you are from, with some extra information about your parents, your school, your activities, and things like that. This information might not seem important to you, but reading all of this information puts an admission counselor into your world. It takes them from their office or wherever they're reading your application, and it puts them where you are. It allows the reader to learn about you and creates the foundation for their impressions of who you are. Unfortunately, students don't always treat the application form as seriously as some of their other application pieces. But you should. Your application is the first impression that you give to an admission officer. What kind of impression does bad grammar give? What about misspellings or no capital letters? What does an email address like videogamesareLife@site.com say about you? What about blank answers to important questions? What does that tell an admission officer? When it comes to applications, you will see two types. The first type is a single application that is accepted by many schools. The Common Application, for instance, is accepted by over 500 colleges and universities. The Universal College Application is accepted by 43 different schools. The second big type of application is an individual application specifically for a single school or a school system. MIT, for example, has their own application that is used by MIT, for MIT, and only for MIT. The University of California system has a single application for all 9 of their campuses. But the UC application can only be used for UC schools. It's very important to know what kind of application or applications your schools are using. Remember, you could be filling out one application for all of your schools, maybe if they're all on the Common Application, or you might be filling out one application form for each of your schools, meaning 5, 6, or 7 different individual application forms. Application forms try to be international student friendly, but remember that they were created mostly with US students in mind. Because of this, your first application is going to take you some extra time to complete. You're going to see terms that you don't understand. Things like weighted grades, permanent address, SEEB code, and many others. You're also going to be asked questions that you might not know the answers to. The address for your high school, when and where your parents went to college, who is your school counselor. It is extremely important that you take the time to understand the terms and the questions and to answer them to the best of your ability. Blank or wrong answers throughout your application will give an admission officer a bad impression of you. Optional answers are actually optional, but they wouldn't be asking those questions if the information weren't somehow important. So before you just skip over optional questions, think about maybe taking the time to answer them. If you cannot fill out the application the right way, how successful are you going to be at a college or university? Furthermore, applications often require more than just the information on the form. What I mean by this: essays, assigning recommenders, and paying the application fees are not part of the form, but they all have to be completed in order to submit your application form. The Common App and Universal App will also require school supplements. Because these application forms are a single form that are used by many different schools, many of the schools will have a special application just for their college or university. This is what's known as a school supplement. These supplements can be as simple as answering a few more questions, or they could be as complex as writing 2 or 3 additional essays. All of these additional steps take both time and planning. Until you have all parts of the application completed, you cannot submit the form. And remember, until you submit the form, you cannot be evaluated for admission. Do not wait until the last minute to fill out your application forms. Many students will feel that filling out the form is easy, so they can wait and do that part last, but that's just not the case. You have plenty of time to fill these forms out if you start early. Application forms are open now. Even if you're planning to apply for some time in the future, it helps to take a look at the applications now. The Common Application will close in July and then reopen in August for next application season. School supplements will be posted at the same time or shortly thereafter. The UC application opens annually on October 1st for a November 30th deadline. Don't wait until November 29th. Look at your deadlines and decide when you want to submit your application. Be careful submitting on the last day. A lot of students will wait until the last minute. They'll go to submit on the last day, and all of the submissions coming in at the same time can create technical problems. The last thing you need is the stress of a technical problem when submitting your application for admission. In between the time that the application opens and when you want to submit, add time into your calendar to fill out the form. Remember, your application is your first impression. Take the time to make it a good impression.